All right, welcome back to the unofficial guide to vMix online course where you can master vMix software. In this video, we're going to talk about vMix Call, which is the easiest way to bring remote guests into your video production using vMix. Let's take a look. So vMix Call is available if you have the HD version. You can bring in one guest just as an input directly into vMix. If you have the 4K version of vMix, you can bring in up to 4 callers. And if you have the Pro version, you can bring up to 8 callers into your video production. Now, in this course, we will be talking about how to use Zoom video conferencing with vMix to bring in lots of great remote callers into your production. But vMix Call is a lot easier and it's more flexible, and you can actually get higher quality video. And we're going to look at all of that right now. So let's add a vMix Call input into our vMix system. Now we're going to do that by hitting the Add Input button, and we're going to go down to Video Call, which is the bottom one right there. Now you've got two options. One is to host a call, and one is to connect to a call. Now, let's start with host a call. That means you are the host of the call. You are bringing somebody in to your vMix video production, and they're going to be a video and audio source in your production. If you're going to connect to a call, that's a very interesting option that is basically a vMix to vMix call. So if you know that someone else is using vMix and they're bringing you into their vMix video production, you can connect to their call directly with the password for the vMix call. And that allows you to have all the power of vMix and control what you are sending to someone else's vMix production. So very cool opportunity to either way use vMix in multiple options. So let's assume that you're going to host the call, and this is the password. This is the password that you want to give your guest. The cool thing is that you can also just copy a link and send them this link, and they will be able to pull that up and connect to your call. Now, the other options here is this is the return feed to guest. So this is the video that you're sending to your guests so they can see when they're live on your live stream or on your show or whatever you want to send to them. So you can actually choose any of your 4 output options. So if you want your guests to always see you and not care about the whole production and the lower thirds and the titles and the mixes that you're doing, you can do that by making sure that one of your outputs is your specific camera input and selecting, let's say, output 2. Usually output 1 is the overall production itself. So you can choose to do that, and you can choose the bandwidth that you'd like to send them. Now keep in mind, this will use your upload speeds. So by default, it sends a 720p video feed that takes 1.2 megabits per second or 1200 kilobits per second. So if you're limited on bandwidth, you can reduce this, or if you have so much bandwidth that you don't know what to do with it, you can do a 1080p at 4 kilobits per second. 4,000 kilobits per second. You can also choose to give them a custom mix of audio to send as well. And if you have a lot of bandwidth, again, you can choose the low latency mode. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretty much keep everything at default, and I'm going to host a call with this password and click OK. So what that does is it creates a vMix video call input that we can open up, and it looks like any other input. So what I'd like to do now is show you guys the vmixcall.com interface that your guest will join. So let's go to vmixcall.com. And what we're going to do, and Mike's going to join this video production. So you're going to see him come into our production here. And Mike, let me read you this password. It's 860-366-2482. And he's going to go ahead and click join the call. And what he's going to see is himself in the return video feed. And he's going to see whatever I am changing. So for example, if I change this input and push play, he's going to see that. So he's going to see whatever I have in my vMix video production back to him, because that's what I selected. So I'm going to pause that video. We don't really need to go into all that. And let's go back to vMix, and I want to show you that now in my production down here, I have Mike's return video feed. So let's take a look at that in full screen. And so we can see here that we've got Mike coming into my production. I can hear him. He can hear me. It does all the mix, minus, and everything for us. Mike is coming in as a video caller. And so we can change this to, Mike, however we'd like to do that. All the vMix tools and the inputs for, maybe I want to color correct his camera feed a little bit, or maybe, like I said, maybe just add a little bit of black stretch to bring the blacks out. We like to do that. Maybe I want to mix Mike into a, 2x1 grid, for example. So maybe I want to kind of show him in a different grid setup. So we can all the multi-view, everything that you're used to with vMix, we can do. Now, the other stuff that we can do is if we right click, we have a call manager. So what this allows me to do is it allows me to chat with Mike. So I can say, hey, Mike, can I hear you? Because sometimes there are issues. Now, back on the vmixcall.com side, let's take a look at the guest interface. You will see that there is a couple different options. There is at the bottom, we have connect to the call. We have toggle video on and off. We have that little screen share button, which is new. Go ahead and click that. Oh, sorry, that's not screen share. That is picture in picture. We have the full screen, and then click the chat real quick. And you can see that we have the full ability to chat with one another. So go ahead and chat back to me here to show how this call manager is working. And it's just a nice, easy way to chat with. Now, if we go back to vMix, we can see that we do have the ability to really just chat back and forth. Great. So you can hear me, I can hear you. So this is the call manager. And if we zoom into it, it shows that we have a little bit more information for statistics. So we can toggle statistics on as well as the chat room. So that's a toggle button for statistics. So we can see here that we are getting 1280 by 720p video. We are getting about 3,700 kilobits, or sorry, 2,000 kilobits per second. And that's video in and then video out. So that's great. We know that we're getting really good video and audio. And that's what makes this better than Zoom in a lot of ways. All of this full control, because if I added a second, third, or fourth caller, depending on the version of vMix that you have, now you have full screen control of all of these inputs, and everybody can hear and see each other. Now, looking back at the input here, one thing I do think that you should consider looking at is the automatically mix audio. That's on by default, and that may be good because you only want, to have the audio unmute and mute when you bring the person in. But a lot of talk shows don't want this, because if you are bringing a talk show person in and then you're both looking at a video or something, you can automatically mute your guest inadvertently. And that's happened to me so many times. So you can either do that there, or you can do that here. So we looked at the audio in another video, but just again, there's that little basically automatically transition audio back and forth there. Make sure that is off, and make sure that their audio is unmuted so you can hear them. That's pretty much all you got to do. I mean, if you want them to be muted every time they're transitioned away from the output, you can do that, but I've never really needed to do that. Now, we can also edit the audio coming in from the vMix caller. This is really great, especially for, trying to do a professional talk show, because, people come in with all different kinds of microphones. You can't do this with Zoom. Everybody comes into you with the same audio. But with this, we can actually tweak the audio a little bit. Now, let me give you guys a couple tips in the audio settings here. One is if they're too low, then we'll increase the gain a little bit. This happens sometimes. You can do automatic gain control to let vMix take control of this, but a lot of times I'll just kind of listen to my guests and increase their gain a little bit. Now, generally, there's no need for delay, but if for some reason their mouth is not matching the words that they're saying, you can put a delay to their audio to fix that. Now, if you have audio plugins, we looked at those in our last video, you can add some plugins to really tweak their audio, make it sound good. You can use a full EQ, which again, just a quick thing on the EQ here, you can get rid of any high buzzing noises at the top end, and you can get rid of any low hum ends at the bottom end. That's removing frequencies from the audio coming in if you have it enabled. So you can consider using that. Another thing that happens a lot with audio being sent over the internet is it can kind of be a little jumpy. And so you can add a little bit of compression, and that may actually make it sound better. So consider that. And you can enable a noise gate. I normally don't use this because it's not generally necessary, but I think it could work well for folks who are guests on your show and you want them to be automatically muted. So we talked about this in our audio section, but just to reiterate, the noise gate will automatically mute your guest if the audio coming through does not hit the level that you set. So that's kind of nice because then they're just muted. So you can see like that little green bar there. So they're coming in right now. With the noise gate, Mike's just being automatically muted because he's not speaking. And that's about it. So that is high level how the vMix call works. It's very simplistic and good, but it does require the Pro HD, 4K, or Pro versions of vMix, and you have a limited amount of callers. So if you want to have 50 callers, 100 callers, 500 callers, Zoom is a great option. So check out our video about how to connect vMix and Zoom in our next tutorial. Thanks for watching, guys. See you on the next one.